Hello, everybody. Good afternoon or good morning to those of you still in Central Time. I'm Jonathan Schoonover, the Senior Vice President of Strategic Practice for Tennesseans for Quality Early Education. And this is the second of our series of the Community of Practice focused on the early educator workforce development. Today, we're going to be spending some time talking about recruitment and marketing and the grow your own strategy that we have here in the state of Tennessee. Just as a reminder for those of you that may be new to this space, we are a nonpartisan coalition of advocates for Tennessee's youngest learners. And our mission is really focused on advancing policies and practices that ensure all Tennessee children from birth all the way through third grade get the high quality care and education that they need to power our state's future. And as a part of that, the practice side has really launched this Bright Start Tennessee Network, which is the statewide network of community partnerships that's closing achievement gaps and opportunity gaps and really, again, helping children from birth through third grade. Also kind of ties back into our policy as well and is a mechanism to provide feedback for that. We've now spread and we're growing and continue to grow. Over 60% of the state is now covered by a Bright Start region. We've got the initial 6 cohorts, and then we've got 2 more new ones, Upper Cumberland and South Central. So excited to have everybody from this. Each one of these cohorts is represented here today on this call, and looking forward to kind of having some time where we talk in a big group together and then also spend some time in breakout sessions as well. Those of you that have been a part of this from the beginning have seen this who knows how many times, but it's something that we kind of go back to with how we think about really getting to third grade reading and math proficiency takes success in all 3 of these domains. High quality birth through age 8 learning environments, physical health, mental health, and development all being on track beginning at birth, and then supported and supportive families and communities. And as a breakdown of that, or kind of further diving into each of those domains, we have 15 measures of success. And we know that as we're looking at this and diving into this, one of the things that had come up last summer with our fellows that each of our communities of across the state have a fellow and a steering committee and working groups as they walk through the planning process, and then action teams as they kind of implement those. One of the things that came up is really this issue of early educator workforce development that we're seeing struggle across the board from everything from evidence-based home visitors to childcare provider professionals to early intervention. Everything is kind of struggling in this and just getting people there. And so we really want to focus a community of practice on understanding how we can work both as a statewide entity to focus on this, but also kind of this hyper localized as well. So we've got each of you had a strategy in your communities that's focused on this, and this is our time to get together every other month and talk about some of these topics that have been raised through this process. Our agenda for today: welcome and intro. There's an update that we'll do here in just a second, and then talk a little bit about this. The 2 big prongs of today's is recruitment and marketing is the first session. And then the second session, we've got some guest speakers coming in and talking about grow your own. So really excited to kind of dive into this. Again, the way that this will flow is we'll have a little bit of a session part, and then we'll break out into our groups based on your Bright Start community. And from there, we will then kind of come back. And one of the things that we've heard is really, really valuable is that share back out time where everybody kind of shares what they've talked about and how they think they can apply this, share what they've learned kind of in between sessions. And we get that cross-region pollination. So where we can really see some ideas where somebody's tried something or if somebody's tried something, and we want both success stories, but also like, hey, we tried this and it didn't work, and how can we work on solving some of these problems together? So really excited to kind of be here with you all and walk through this community of practice together. Our guest speakers on the last half of today will be Kate Hall, the Associate Director of Grow Your Own at Center of University of Tennessee in Knoxville, and then Dana Payne, the Director of Career and Technical Education in Clarksville, Montgomery County School System. So I am going to stop sharing my screen now, and I'm going to highlight, we asked the fellows if anyone wanted to kind of share success stories and things that are going on and update what's happening in the community. And I've got Northeast Tennessee. with a strong ACC as our backbone organization there. And Beth Huber has volunteered to kind of talk a little bit about some of the updates that have happened since we all met last. And so I am going to, as soon as I can find her, it's great. It's a great problem to have. There's a lot of you, but as soon as I can find her, I will highlight her and have her come off mute and share a little bit about what's been going on in Northeast Tennessee. Beth?
Everybody, Jonathan, thanks for the opportunity to share. We've had a lot of great conversations just in the last few, I guess, couple weeks in this area. So I'm just really excited about connections that are being made and some new opportunities for early childhood education in our region. So one of the exciting things is that ETSU is having their early childhood conference this year, and after COVID, there was some issues with numbers and they weren't able to have it, and it's coming back. And that is such a great opportunity for childcare, preschool, and elementary school teachers in this region. And we had a great conversation with the Bright Start group this week and how we can work with the conference committee to really include directors in early childhood education students, our child care subpool, et cetera, and have that be part of the early childhood conference. So we're excited about that. That's in July. Another thing to mention that Mitzi Neely from Northeast State and Sarah Meisner from Mitzner from TECTA are meeting with all of the regional high school CTE directors on Valentine's Day, I think is the day, and talking about dual enrollment and the early childhood education programs at Northeast State. So that's another great thing that's happening. And then the other thing is our professional organization, AACE, has really been building up, and we've got a great steering committee, and we're starting to do some virtual coffee chat trainings. And our first one is going to be about advocacy, and Ashley Stockton will be leading that with Save the Children Action Network, and we're highlighting some stories of area directors who have really been using their voice with speaking to legislators. And so we're hoping to spread that word with both early childhood education students and child care providers and directors. So anyway, it's just been really beautiful to see how the collaboration that's been happening across our agencies in this area. So thanks for letting me share.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing. This is part of what we want to do is highlight success stories that we hear and things that are moving and going well. And thankful. We know that this is not all of what's happening, and each of you have your own, I'm sure, that could share, but Beth volunteered to do so, and we were happy to highlight and spotlight her. So now what I'll do is I'll bring forth our CEO, Blair Taylor, and she's going to kind of lead us through some of the main content of these sessions. I'm going to spotlight her video here, and she's going to talk to us first about marketing and recruitment and some of the things that are going on, examples that we see in other states and things like that. But I'm going to add her here, and then I am going to drop off of this. We do encourage you as you listen to this, feel free to ask questions. I think she'll give some time for some questions and answers at the end of each of these sessions. But we really, the purpose of this community of practice is truly to be interactive and to engage with us in this way. And we know that it becomes stronger. We all become stronger when we do that. So feel free to, but we also want you to take care of yourself. So if you need this is a lunchtime. So if you need to grab lunch and go off video for a little bit, but come back on, we love it. But when we go breakout sessions here in a little bit, we'll encourage you all to turn your videos on and engage in that time. So, but for now, Blair, I'll turn it over to you and let you have the floor.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. Good morning and good afternoon, Central Time and Eastern Time. Good to be with everyone this Friday. Thanks so much for tuning in. We are going to be talking about recruitment and marketing here in just a second. I did want to give a quick shout out to the star of our last community of practice session, Dr. Elizabeth Staples. Dr. Staples, I believe you are here. I saw you in the participating group, and you were fantastic last time. Really gave us an incredible view and perspective into what's possible in high school CCTE as an on-ramp for early educators and preparing students with their CDAs and to gain those crucial skills. So real excited to have you back. as part of this community of practice, having joined us, and you're from Germantown High School in Memphis, well, in the Memphis area, in the Shelby County area, and we are part of the Memphis Shelby County School District. So near and dear to my heart, as I am here in Memphis myself. So recruitment and marketing, we held last September. Many of you participated, certainly not all of you on this call, but many of you participated in our first inaugural Align Summit, our Bright Start Summit in Nashville this September. We spent a day together, and a lot of the focus was on the early educator workforce. As Jonathan mentioned, we'd heard from all of you that this is just an area we just really want to tackle together, figure out what are strategies, learn together. And part of that, one of the things that bubbled up as not just a nice to have, but a must have, just all of you all in your breakout sessions, we heard some, was we have got to do more on this recruitment and marketing piece for this, for growing the workforce. And when we, when we talked about it, and actually, Jonathan, I'm just remembering, will you put in the chat the discussion guide? Jonathan's going to put in the chat the discussion guide we prepared today for the fellows have, that will be what some of the things we invite you to consider and discuss when you break out in your individual rooms. But I wanted him to put that in there for now, and you can kind of follow along and be thinking about it as I make a few remarks. One of the things, as we had conversations with you, there's a lot to consider with marketing, but some of the things that bubbled up were, well, what should some of the primary goals and objectives be? Like, if we're going to do a marketing campaign, why are we doing that? What are we trying to accomplish? Who will benefit? What does that look like? And so as we have been thinking about this, we know that there are tools and resources, potentially an online tool for our state, a portal where it's a hub of resources and inspiration, perhaps, for this purpose. There may be a public relations campaign, there may be a kind of marketing campaign around the early educator workforce. Those are some of the things we heard from you. In response, what we're doing is we're beginning to explore whether or not there's grants out there and funding that could potentially fund something like this. We also, I want to say that, please, some of you all may know, and in fact, some of you have participated on the Department of Education's Preschool Commission. They received a PDG, federal PDG grant, and have been developing a 0 to 5 plan. Aspects of that plan are very much focused on the early educator workforce. And one piece of that is some kind of marketing campaign. And so she told my friend Misty Moody there at the department, the deputy director for early learning, that we'd be sharing feedback from this group. And the way we're thinking about this is that this is this is kind of a first foray into just gathering up your thinking, kind of brainstorming about and putting together a kind of a brief as a result of it, considering sort of a big super focus group on what do we need to include, what do we need to be thinking about. So that's sort of the context of this conversation today. A couple of things that I do want you to think about. Again, in the discussion guide, if Jonathan, you have put that in the chat, haven't you? That's in there. In the discussion guide, you'll see a couple of resources. One of them is a campaign website. You all know or may be aware that New Mexico is making some very big investments in early care and education. And when we asked our statewide network of partners, kind of counterparts to our organization, we asked them, is anybody doing this well? Has anybody got any great portals or websites or anything that we should be looking at, or campaigns? And the New Mexico one came back to us as one that seemed, some good, at least good inspiration for us to consider and look at. So I've put, that's a link to that is in the resource guide. There's also a reminder for those of you who are at the Align Summit. We also compiled and provided at that summit some really good information in our state. And the two links are, there's the Tennessee, we call it the Tennessee ECE Education and Training Resources, and that has got a whole list of all these community colleges, high school career and technical education programs. It's got a career lattice that we sort of developed and put together, building on some good work that had already been done in Tennessee by TECTA and others. It speaks to resources for that are, CCR&Rs are doing some terrific resources and very important tools and trainings and supports and technical assistance that they have in place. So it covers a lot of that. I want you to know, we've started sort of gathering resources. The other link is about the financial supports and systems. Like, what is out there to support someone making their way, a young person, an experienced person? What are the resources out there to support their career pathway? And so there's a great document chock full of what's available in Tennessee. I just want to bring your attention to that. Some things to be considering as I'm going to, just in a second here, I'm just going to share my screen and I'm going to walk you through a couple of pages of this Developing Futures website. Just again, for inspiration, it's the New Mexico website. And I want you to be thinking about, what would we be trying to accomplish if we are putting together some kind of a campaign across our state? We know that our community colleges, our high schools, not our high schools, our schools, our CCTE programs, there's a recruiting aspect of this, right? We also learned at Align that enrollments have declined significantly in community colleges. And we know a lot of that's tied to compensation. And we've had, a lot of dialogue around that. But we've also talked about the important role and heard from you all about elevating the profession and, really helping these incredible people who are doing the crucial work of early education and supporting care. How do we elevate them and help them to feel valued and feel excited about and inspired about, and let them know we're excited and inspired about the work that they do. Other considerations, growing childcare entrepreneurs. Is that something, we want to, have website or efforts to support? And then think about the kind of efforts, there's employee recruiting. There's all these folks out there who are providers and who are in the pre-K third space as well, who are desperately trying to recruit employees. So, is that something that we should be considering as a goal? So all of this is just to kind of warm up your thinking, get you kind of juiced up and ready to have a conversation and jot some notes and help feedback and share with us kind of a list of what should we be thinking about if we were going to design this being some kind of campaign. What do we need to be including? So with that, I'm going to just take a brief few minutes and just share my screen, show you a couple things on this website. And let's see, here we go. Jonathan, I'm getting ready to share my screen. Here it is. It's called Developing Futures. And you'll see it starts with featuring early educators, early care and education professionals, and their stories. And I think that we've heard from a lot of you all that that's sort of a crucial part of any kind of campaign, is who are the people who are doing this day in and day out? What is their story? Why do they love it? How did they get to where they are today? And really leveraging those stories to help inspire others. So New Mexico has done a great job of capturing some stories. You can see, I'm just scrolling through here, you can see, I'm going to get right to this part where it says meet the professionals, view all the profiles, and you can see exploring careers in early childhood and a variety of different types of careers, center-based, early intervention, home childcare. That's another consideration, is what all do we want to capture in a campaign? It's home visiting, pre-K and Head Start. So let me just show you one other thing here. If you see view all the profiles, you see there's a whole slew of them here, and you can click onto each of their stories. One of the things that I noticed is not available, at least on this website, is video of these folks. So just I invite you to think about that and whether or not that's something that's important. One of another thing that this group has done, New Mexico has done, they have created a kind of a jobs page here. So they've connected with LinkedIn, not LinkedIn, Indeed, and they have basically created on their site a back to it here. They've created on their site kind of a jobs page. I was just going to go to that. Apply for jobs right here. So you'll see, you know, typical of what you would expect. It's actually some kind of aggregation of New Mexico early care and education job postings on Indeed. So, you know, perhaps, you know, a helpful feature. So that's really, I'm going to stop share. That's just meant to be a little bit of inspiration, just to get you thinking about what's maybe out there. I do want to say also, many industries, from healthcare to manufacturing to, you know, biotech to cybersecurity, have industry councils. They are, you know, retail, hospitality industry are having many of the same, you know, staffing challenges, and they are likewise, in many cases, they're gathering up as employer councils, and they're creating, you know, they've got information on career pathways. I have candidly done a preliminary scan, and I'm not seeing any that are doing it great, that have a great website or that are collaborating broadly. You know, a lot of it's just about, hey, come to our particular institution or come to our particular company, and here's the career pathways within our company. That may be because of competition, I don't know, but I do think that as you all engage your business community and your chambers of commerce and others in your communities, it's worth really picking their brains a little bit. I don't know if we have any on the call today, but really picking their brains today about, are there any lessons to be learned from what you're seeing in other industries as far as recruiting and career pathways and guidance and career exploration and those kinds of things. So I just wanted to mention that we are not alone. And however, we may be unique in the idea of collaborating across a state and across partners and across sectors. So with that, I'm going to pause just for a minute, see if anybody has any questions. But Jonathan, then I think we'd be ready to go, you know, into breakout. Any, you know, questions or comments or anything? You know, and one of the things as you go into your breakout too, if and as, you know, you may not know off the top of your head today what resources, what's happening in your community, but that would be one of the questions for you all. Are there things happening in your community already, you know, along these lines? What kind of, you know, what kinds of things should we be thinking about? Everything from digital ads and billboards. Should there be a helpline? Should there be, you know, new awards that where we're elevating the profession through awards, and that can be featured on some kind of a website or part of a campaign? You know, what all can be done, and what do you all think is needed? So with that, Jonathan, I think we're ready to send folks to their breakout rooms for discussion.
Sounds good. So as you head into breakout rooms, it'll again be by your Bright Start community. There'll be somebody that you all should have access to the study guide or their study guide. This is going to be a test afterwards. Now the discussion guide, each of you should have a facilitator in there that can kind of lead you and walk you through that process. Encourage you to come on video, off mute, talk about these things, how this applies to you locally and what this looks like. I do ask that each of you, and whether that's your facilitator or someone else that you want to appoint, that you have someone kind of ready to be able to share back out to the group when we come back. So with that said, what you'll have is 15 minutes in the breakout room. I'll give you a 5-minute warning through a little message, and then the groups The breakout rooms will close automatically at 14 minutes, and then you'll get that 60 seconds where you'll stay in there as kind of your last reminder. So 15 minutes, and that should start now. Welcome back from the breakout rooms. Hopefully you were in the middle of good discussion. I'm always tempted to, when people come back, like some great thought was probably happening and then it just got cut off. So want to take this time now and spend about 15 minutes where we are up to 15 minutes. We don't want to force it if there's nothing here, but want to let people share with each other a little bit about what you guys talked about in your breakout rooms, if any aha moments, any things that you figured out. So as we've got spokespeople from your group, if you didn't assign one, I'll point to the fellow to either do it themselves or bring somebody else on. What we would love to do is, as you come on and speak, is just say your name, say what region you're from, and kind of what your role is, just so that we can kind of get to know each other a little bit more as we walk through this as well. Let me open it up and just see if there's anybody that wants to go first. If not, I usually like to work kind of methodically through the state so that I know that I don't leave anybody out. Anybody want to go first?
You were about to call on somebody, weren't you?
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay. All right. Sorry. I'm Ellie Kittrell. I'm with United Way of Greater Knoxville, and our group, we didn't assign a speaker, so I'll take one for the team. We are, first of all, we really need to do a deeper assessment here in Knox County to understand our specific needs. This kind of keeps coming up around our workforce discussions. So I feel like we're kind of flying blind a little bit in this discussion. But one of the big challenges that we have is we really don't have any CTE classes that are focused on early care and education any longer. We've had a reorganization of our high school program with the Ford Next Generation Learning Model, and this creates career pathways that are tied to academies. And there's a strong focus on selecting academies and pathways that will lead toward thriving wage jobs, specifically jobs that can afford to purchase homes and create that wealth, that household wealth. So understandably, the ECE programs have fallen off, right? The prioritization because of those depressed wages. So we're going to have to really think a little bit more creatively about how to align and get into the high schools. We talked about potentially aligning more on that entrepreneurial side, because most of the high schools have entrepreneurial classes. And so if we can tackle it that way and have some supportive organizations that work on entrepreneurship cohorts and things like that, that might be a good partnership with our high schools, and also to tackle at that perception of the profession, which is at the core for a lot of this. And I'm sure we said other things. If anyone from the team wants to pop in and add to what we talked about. We did not get into discussing, what types of campaigns, because quite frankly, without understanding what the gaps are here specifically, it's hard to go there. But that website was awesome.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else want to jump in?
Jonathan, Dr. Staples was in the middle of one of those great thoughts, and just as we got cut off, and maybe we'd like for her to, and was getting a lot of amens from our breakout. So maybe she could, we could put her on the spot here a minute.
Okay, hi, I'm Dr. Staples with Memphis Shelby County Schools. And one of the ideas that I had was, as far as marketing, is trying to get maybe a student, have a parent or an entrepreneur give testimonials or give their story as far as how the program benefits them or their business, and have an upbeat, type interview, so that it could be shared with other people who have the same goals and interests as they do. I think that would be a very good marketing campaign, because when you get other students talking to potential students who are interested in going into the early childhood field, you may gather some more, entice more students to become early childhood professionals. And even those persons who are entrepreneurs, let them do a big campaign about the benefits of being a child care entrepreneur. So those were my thoughts about that.
Like a positive peer pressure model, right?
Exactly.
I love it.
Anybody else from our group wanted to comment on that? We did have some amens and some other thoughts. Okay.
Dr. Staples stated it more eloquently, I think, than anyone else could, or that I could, excuse me, I'll put it that way. So we need to get it out there. Wages did a series of promotional videos when they had something going on, and then they would run that with their promotions. And I think that did people a lot of good to see the actual entrepreneurs, if you would, the people who are doing it and using it, than just saying, oh, this is something you need to try, this is important. And I think seeing the people that they see every day would be more helpful than just any type of promotional video. So that was a good idea Dr. Staples had.
Debbie
Great.
leads the work, and Debbie's also from the Memphis area and leads the early childhood department at Southwest Tennessee Community College. Is that right, Debbie? Awesome.
Good deal. What other communities want to share? Rosa, I'm looking at you next. Rosa, then Beth, if I don't hear from anybody.
I would say Cliff would probably be better at this.
That's great.
Cliff is over our TCATs. And we were talking because at one time, the TCAT actually offered early education childcare on site and used the CTE programs of our high schools, and the children would go over and earn their degrees. So we were talking about bringing that back. And how can we make that available? And then like on the marketing and campaign, what would that look like? And I agree. I think like the live stories of showing how not only it helped the workforce, like, or people continuing their education at TCATs, dropping their children off at a TCAT, using the high school students to come over, work through their degrees, and those opportunities that are available to them for the funding to continue their degrees through TECTA. So I like from the ground up how it's benefiting workforce, how it's benefiting parents, children, and also students to continue their education is what I would look at it to be. And Cliff, you can step in at any time if you like.
Well, I think the other tie to that, Rosa, is the fact that we could also be, since early childhood education is also a TCAT program, and it's also in some community colleges, what we done before, we had high schoolers here. We also had full-time adults. So you have that articulation from the CTE high school programs into the full-time adult programs. Then from there, it transfers credit right into the community colleges. And I think some of those have articulations with some of the four-year schools. So you just got this big whole chain that works well together. And like I said, we did well with it. I'm the demon that cut it. I still hear that all the time because it was just so expensive to run that stuff. And that was the problem. I mean, there is so many mandates to that. And I think that's what stops a lot of folks from running daycares. But with us, you know, like we said, I see it as a complete chain. CTE programs embedded in TCAT full-time programs, giving continuing education onto the community colleges, maybe the four-year schools, but at the same time, trying to build that whole, you know, early educator within that. Because I mean, if folks get used to taking care of little ones, I'm sure they'd get the bug to be an educator at some point. But that's kind of what I would like for us in our entire service area to get back to. We're all rural over here, and I was telling the group earlier, you know, TCATs, community college, high school, all of us, if we can educate all we want to, but if somebody don't have a place to put their kids, we're spinning wheels. And so that's kind of where our thought process was.
That's good. Thanks for sharing. And this is a good chance just to, again, say this is where I think we can get stronger with each other. There's different context here, but it's sometimes we can learn from rural, we can learn from urban. Like there's a different, we're all across the state experiencing similar things, but in different contexts. So this is a powerful thing to get everybody together. Beth, let me turn to you if you've got a spokesperson, and then after that we'll go Chattanooga.
I did a bad job and did not ask for a spokesperson. We had a good group, good conversation. We definitely need more time. So this will be a good way to maybe gather the same group and have a meeting specifically about marketing recruiting, because there are so many different ideas and thoughts. We did start off talking about if we should do a regional campaign or statewide campaign, and just shared our thoughts about that. And it was kind of the consensus of this group is that we really want to capture the voices and the uniqueness of our area, just because, as you go from region to region, everything looks so differently. And we often find when there's statewide things or even nationwide videos and things that we use, it doesn't really reflect the voices of our community. So that was one thing that we talked about, is that we would really like to have videos and documentaries of people from our particular region speaking. We did also talk a little bit about what the focus of our campaign was, and we talked about, employee recruitment, but also campaigning for high school and community colleges as well. And then right before we left, Mitzi had mentioned that we really need to strengthen that connection and get buy-in from the high school CTE directors. That's one of our big goals in this area. But does anyone else in our group, and also Rhonda from TECTA had shared about their apprenticeship program, which we also are excited to learn more about.
That's great. Chattanooga, we'll point Jennifer, or if there's somebody else that you want to appoint, that's fine. And then we'll go to Olivia in West Tennessee.
So for Chattanooga, something that's happening locally in our community is that we actually do.
Let me pause you real quick. Can you say who you are?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I just want to make sure everybody starts to get to know each other a little bit more.
Tanya Henson Brooks. I'm at Chattanooga State, and Jennifer asked me to speak for Chattanooga. So in our region, we actually have centers that have the classroom spaces, but don't have the teachers to run them. So we've even had Head Start classrooms that didn't have enough educators to open in August and September and October. So our region is very interested in creating more seats, but also having the educators to use the existing ones. And so one of the topics that we discussed, I think the most, between UTC and Chattanooga State and a couple other agencies, one of the problems is that whether we're recruiting young bright minds or even experienced and wise bright minds, we really have a reputation problems. It's not just babysitting. It's not on your way to becoming an educator, or if you can't become an educator, here's an option. And across the board, it's been my colleagues' experience that recruiting folks into birth to 5 who are already college bound is nearly impossible. And it is entirely because those around them are so vocal about there not being any other pathway to working with children beyond certified elementary school teacher. And while I realize we need more certified elementary school teachers who are on the pre-K to 3 end, even those that would be incredibly effective with birth to 5, their social world says that's not a viable choice. And sure, you can do that on your way to something, but what's going to be your grown-up job, kind of thing. And there is the perception that you can't support yourself in this career. There is the perception that it is low level. Let's see, we kind of brainstormed some campaign options, but the biggest message would have been this is not only a great profession and an important career field, but it's a really fulfilling, valuable one to do. And so regardless of which marketing tools we used, I think that was the message that our group seemed to be the most behind. We do have a couple programs locally that have had the most success recruiting and supporting new early educators, like into some beginning college classes and CDA credential, by recruiting from parents. So local Head Start agencies and another local program is recruiting from parents themselves to become educators. And I know that a lot of my community college colleagues will say that the majority of their, especially evening students, are already parents. And that's why they came to the profession, is because of their experience as parents. But that again means we're not recruiting those straight out of high school.
You're getting a lot of amens in the chat as well, and yes, spot on with that. It's paired. This, what you said, kind of pairs with the compensation thing together to provide a little bit of a struggle with this. Let's turn to West Tennessee, and then we'll come back and close it out with this section, and we'll kind of move into the next section with Nashville. So West Tennessee, then Nashville.
I'll be brief. We had a smaller group, but good conversation with Kelly from TECTA, and you know, we've had a lot of success with our high school CTE programs here as a region. We've had a lot more participation than, you know, I think we probably have the highest per capita when you look at how many kids we actually have in those school districts, and we have a really good enrollment in those programs. She said that they have a pretty wide range of why high school students get into those, and that really varies by where they're at, which I think someone made this point earlier. You know, in some of our most rural school districts, they're getting into the program because this is their opportunity and there's employment after that. And it is something that they feel is a professional opportunity. And there's not that reputation problem like there is in some of our more higher populated areas. And so that's a different, you know, that's a different marketing technique that you have to message. And so she's also had people really interested in opening childcare centers out of their own homes. So including that in some kind of marketing campaign too, that this is an option and provides a lot of flexibility and provides some things that a lot of, I know, younger parents or mothers want when it comes to employment. So those are some things we talked about. We also talked about just whatever those features are kind of at the bottom. We talked about ads and billboards, like the mechanism of communication, making sure that that's contextualized for which part of the state it is, and whether it's rural or not. So contextualizing that communication.
Yeah, that's great. Nashville, I know, Julie, you led the conversation there. Is there someone to speak or that wants to speak in Nashville?
Hi, I volunteered to speak for Nashville.
Great.
I'm Zoe Matthews. I work for CCR&R, and I'm also on Action Team 3 with Raising Readers Nashville. We talked about a lot of the things that have been brought up already, especially, you know, surrounding compensation and Tanya's beautiful explanation of what's going on with perception of the field. I think that one of the things that I brought was just wanting to make sure that we are reaching people who aren't already interested necessarily in early childhood education with our messaging. And so making sure that we are pursuing avenues that are going to get that information in the hands of those who aren't already engaged with it, as far as how they're thinking about the work that our early childhood educators are doing. That brain development information about the first 3 years that we're also well acquainted with isn't necessarily common knowledge for those outside of our field. And so wanting to get that out there. We also discussed for a campaign, especially with, you know, being in a more urban setting, that social media and the internet is a great place to be doing that. We would love to see some more combined resources between our different community partners, maybe a centralized website similar to what we're seeing from New Mexico, where, you know, like CCR&R, TECTA, everyone is linked into the same place and can share that same information very easily. We also liked from the New Mexico website the opportunities of different career paths, and that's a way that we can start hopefully to change the perception of the field by opening up awareness about potential mobility, which then is going to mean, that we'll have to actually have pathways for people to be able to follow to go from, in the classroom to potentially an administrative role, maybe mentoring other teachers, coaching, those kinds of opportunities, and making those more clear. And then we also talked about the nursing profession has seen some significant changes recently in just general pay and respect for the profession. And so we were kind of wondering if there would be people within the nursing community who could help us understand better how they were able to make that progress and if that might translate to the early childhood field as well.
That like a positive deviance model of what happened well in this field and how can we take some of that and borrow that. That's great. For those of you at home keeping score, I didn't forget about our last community, South Central. Connie has already put some stuff in the chat that you can take a look at there about MTSU and some of the things that are going on in South Central as well. So we are excited now to kind of shift gears and let's go in and talk about a little bit about a program that we've got here in our state that we're excited to kind of highlight and to benefit. We've got both of our speakers are here and we're excited about this. I'm going to highlight Blair, and then Blair, I'll let you introduce them as I spotlight them.
Yes. Hello again, and welcome to Kate Hall, who is the Associate Director of Tennessee's Grow Your Own Center based at UT Knoxville. And Dana, you here? Yes, let's see if we can get Dana spotlighted too here for a second, Jonathan. Dana Payne with Clarksville, Montgomery County Schools. She leads their career and technical education program there and was the inspo. Really had the idea that helped birth their Grow Your Own program there, which started as a partnership with Austin P. There you are. There she is. Great. I've had a chance to talk with both these folks. This is an opportunity for this learning community to hear from and learn a little bit about Grow Your Own programs in Tennessee, what they are. Some of you have some, reasonably deep knowledge about this and may be involved in Grow Your Own programs. Some of you all may have no idea what Grow Your Own programs are and kind of which the apprenticeship model. So I'm going to start off talking with Kate a little bit and just describing what Grow Your Own is. And then I'm going to turn over to Dana and talk a little bit with her about the program at the Clarksville, Montgomery County Schools and a little bit about how it's evolved, but also sort of what birthed it. And then we'll open it up to Q&A and have some discussion with all of you all. And then again, go into a breakout, have a little conversation among ourselves and then come back and share. So with that, I'm going to start. This is meant to be conversational. So also, let me just say, put questions in the chat as they come up, you guys, and Jonathan will be paying attention and we'll try to bring those in and make sure we get the questions answered. So, Kate, hello. Thank you for being here. You want to just introduce yourself first and just say hello, and then we'll dive in.
Sure. Thanks for having me. I'm Kate Hall. I'm in Knoxville, Tennessee. We work for the UT System office, and I serve as the Associate Director of the Grow Your Own Center.
Great. And Dana, you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself too, since you're spotlighted?
Absolutely. I'm Dana Payne. I'm the Director of Career and Technical Education for the Clarksville Montgomery County School System up in northern Middle Tennessee.
Awesome. Okay, so Kate, starting off, just tell us a little bit about what is the Grow Your Own Center? Who is your employer and what do you guys do? What is your purpose? And let me just say as a background, it's been 3 years, maybe 2 years only, maybe less than that Tennessee kind of led the nation in this whole idea of grow your own and using apprenticeship models to grow early educators and to address the staffing shortage of educators. And I know it was focused a lot on the K-12 space. Kate and I have done a lot of talking about Well, there's the pre-K side of things too. So for this conversation, Grow Your Own, we are looking at the sort of pre-K to third grade part of our, what do you want to call it? Our scope, as you will, if you will, as an early education group. So with that, Kate, back to you. Tell us what you do, Grow Your Own Center.
Sure. Yeah, you're right. The first round of Grow Your Own did begin in 2020, launched in Clarksville, Montgomery, with their partner, Austin Peay State University. And after that launch in 2020, Grow Your Own started expanding just through grants from the Department of Ed. But then again, in 2022, Tennessee did become the first state in the nation with a federally recognized teacher occupation apprenticeship program. And so that led to the launch of the Tennessee Grow Your Own Center in May of 2022. And we have a lot of goals to provide technical assistance to our school districts and our ed prep providers, come up with innovative solutions to the problems and the barriers and the challenges that are out there, and make this a sustainable program. And then partnership is a big piece of our work. Why we say we exist is to end teacher shortages in Tennessee. We believe Tennessee is a great place to be a teacher, and we would love for there to be no more teacher shortages. And so our goal is to really strengthen the educator pipeline. We know nationally Grow Your Own is getting a lot of attention, and it's really become a leading strategy to end the educator shortages. Because there's some really great things about not just Grow Your Own, but a registered apprenticeship model. Here in Tennessee, teachers can obtain teacher licensure with no out-of-pocket cost. And that's a big barrier, is the cost of universities to get to a degree, so they can graduate with no debt. It does leverage that registered apprenticeship model, which means they're working while they're learning under a skilled mentor teacher. We're really expanding partnerships across the state to make sure we have a really wide demographic representation of the educator workforce in Tennessee.
So Kate, let me pause you just a second and ask a quick question about, so to clarify, so this might be, everyone might know what this means, but an educator prep program, can you like say, what is an educator prep program? What constitutes that? And what do
it
they
would just be our four-year universities across the state of Tennessee, public or private four-year universities that prepare educators.
And not all of them have educator prep program, but it's the ones that provide, there are some that are specifically designated and have educator prep programs that are approved, where they're teacher licensure programs, right?
Sure. And then within Grow Your Own, we partner with 11 colleges or universities across the state of Tennessee that have approved Grow Your Own pathways to get teacher licensure.
And some of those too, just there's 4-year, and then there's also some educator prep programs that sort of take folks who already have a bachelor's degree and prepare them with teacher licensure, or give them a year's worth of whatever, and they're an educator prep program too.
Yeah, that's the great thing about our registered apprenticeship in Tennessee, is we're really working to create pathways for every type of learner. And so whether you need an associate degree, there should be a pathway for you. If you need bachelor's completion, there's a pathway for you. And a lot of our registered apprentices are actually they came from a different field and are desiring a change, or maybe they took time off and have been called to the field of teaching, and they already have a bachelor's. And so we can get them licensed from one of our colleges or universities in a year or under. Same high quality standards to exit the program, but just in a little bit shorter amount of time.
And so tell us just like a little bit about the mechanics, and we'll hear more of an example when we get to Clarksville, when we get to Dana. But what are the mechanics of a GYO program? You've got to have a participating high school, right? Or school, not high school necessarily, but school.
You have to have a participating school district. And so right now we have 73 partnering school districts across the state. We have more in process of becoming approved to partner with us. So you have to have an employer. So the school district serves as the employer, and you have to have a sponsor. And in our case, the Department of Education is the sponsor. And then you also have to have a RTI provider And RTI is the related technical instruction, and that just basically means the coursework that the apprentices take. And so that's why they have to apply with a college or university, and that's where they would take their classes. The great thing is our colleges and universities have worked really hard to offer these courses at times that are convenient for working learners. A barrier of a more traditional pathway is if you're working as an assistant during the day, you probably can't quit your job to go on campus and take classes. And you also can't quit for a semester and do student teaching. And so those are two barriers that they've worked really hard. And so courses are offered online or in the evenings, so they can access the coursework at a time that works for them. And then the student teaching is embedded. The apprenticeship is basically the student teaching, so that on-the-job experience happens throughout the course of the apprenticeship.
So you basically got the school district that is employing apprentices and paying them to work during the day.
And those
as
positions are already created. You know, we already have teaching assistants in districts. And so they're already paid positions that are out there. That's right.
And then those teaching assistants, as they're apprenticing, they're going to school at night with one of your partner educator prep programs, basically, or through online or whatever it may be.
That's right. And then another requirement is that they have to have a trained mentor teacher. And that's really exciting because that's who they're working with day to day, getting that on the job learning experience and really helping them with the competencies that make a qualified teacher. And so what we would hope is that the end of the apprenticeship, that apprentice would get hired in that district where they were apprenticing, and they wouldn't feel like a first-year teacher because they've had 2 years, you know, of on-the-job learning experience with that mentor teacher. So they feel really equipped to enter the classroom on day one.
Got it. I have a gazillion more questions that I know would be helpful for me to ask you about. I'm gonna jump for a minute though over to Dana and let her tell us a little bit about this. Will kind of bring a little bit more, kind of example or illustration to a program. Dana, you want to just tell us a little bit about the Clarksville Montgomery County School District program, and also, you kind of came up with the idea, which is really cool.
Yeah, so I'm the director of career and technical education. And interestingly, we were traveling with a number of our workforce friends to a conference about apprenticeships and just having organic conversation about apprenticeships and what apprenticeships are and really looking for them in, how to grow them in other areas. And the conversation just organically kind of happened around, why don't we do this in education? We have, it's probably the most apprenticeable occupation there is. We do student teaching, but student teaching doesn't necessarily always work the best that it should. And so there were just a lot of us around the table having, conversation about work we were already doing around trying to help our educators be more prepared. Retention was a big part of that conversation. That we have so many teachers that go to traditional education pathways and still leave the discipline within a couple of years. And so, it was a conversation around what would help those new teachers want to stay. And we thought apprenticeship, might be the route to go. So that was kind of the conversation that started all of it. We started our partnership originally with Austin Peay University, and
That's a 4-year institution, right? A 4-year institution in your area.
Correct. Yeah. So we're lucky that we have Austin Peay State University here in Clarksville, as well as a Nashville State Community College campus here in Clarksville. And so just starting to think about cost and how we could do this at no cost to our teacher residents. We started just kind of looking at various funding streams, and Tennessee Promise, Tennessee Reconnect, both allow for associate degrees. And so we started working with Nashville State around what it would look like to have our students get an associate's degree in early childhood education that could then articulate into a 4-year degree at Austin Peay State University, taking essentially 2 years of that Tennessee Promise or Tennessee Reconnect funding, and having that be one way that teachers were not going to need to pay for their schooling. So that, you know, that's kind of how that evolved.
And then your students are just, which is fantastic. I just love this, how you've pulled all the different pieces together of resources available in Tennessee. Your students are, we talked about, and Kate talked about the education assistants.
Uh-huh.
Students are education assistants. Is that right? You already have those positions and
Correct. So we call this program our teacher residency program is how we refer to it. And so we already had in our elementary classrooms educational assistants. That's something that we had already funded. And so what we did is we set aside a certain number of those elementary educational assistant positions to be positions for teacher residents. And so instead of hiring outside of that program, all of the educational assistants that are in the early learning teacher residency were positions that already existed. Now they're just set aside for the people who are in the program.
So they're paid, a wage that's covered by the school district.
Correct.
And they're getting their post-secondary educator prep programs via associate's degree paid for by Tennessee Promise or Tennessee Reconnect.
Yep.
And
Correct.
then talk maybe a little bit about, and then that articulates into getting their bachelor's degree at Austin P. Talk a little bit about, you mentioned to me in our conversation about a cohort approach and how that was a really important feature of what you guys were doing.
Yeah, so we do all of our teacher learning pathways in cohorts. So every 2 years we have early learning, and then every third year we do a middle school option. And they're cohorted so that students are working through their coursework together. So the classes that they take, it is a straight shot schedule. They are the only ones in those classes. So they take the classes on Tuesday and Thursday nights, typically in the evenings. A lot of our CMCSS teachers are adjuncts, or a lot of us at central office adjunct as professors for Austin P and for Nashville State. So they're getting the CMCSS twist on those courses that the students are required to take. So 5 days a week, they are educational assistants for us in a classroom that has a learning mentor, and then they are 2 nights a week in these cohorted classes. So it's an accelerated model. They're done in 3 years, 2 years for their associate's degree, and then a year to finish out their rest of the requirements they need from Austin P. And they do have classes in the summer. But like I said, that cohort model has been really phenomenal because the conversation and that group of people are together for 3 years. And the success rate, according to the university too, they have a much higher success rate than students who are traditionally going through the education program just as a one-off without that context.
I think that's just so powerful because we do hear a lot, and the statistics really are staggering. And as we look at persistence rate in community colleges and how many drop out, and this cohort model has been cited, the generally cohort model is cited as one way to tackle that. Sounds like y'all are having a great success with it.
Yeah, it's been hugely successful. I think the other piece of that, it helps us to kind of see who needs help. So we can know, okay, we're getting ready. Praxis is a problem. Just being really honest, like passing the praxis and being able to do that has been a bit of a problem, especially when we talk about middle school math. And so being able to have that cohort of students where we can know that they're struggling, and then we can set aside remediation nights. Like we have specific nights that if your grades fall below a certain amount, in order to remain in the program, you're required to do tutoring. And so that's just a part of that to help keep that going.
How does that last year of bachelor's, like once they've gone through their associate's degree, how does that last set of coursework to get their bachelor's degree get paid for?
Well, the apprenticeship piece helps with that. So that's
So grow
exactly
your
why.
own helps with that. Grow your own helps pay for that.
Yeah, the apprenticeship model, because it's a registered apprenticeship, now you get funding per apprentice. So that can help pay and cover the cost of that.
Awesome.
We use a lot of WIOA funding as well for folks who qualify for it.
That's great. Yeah, Kate, do you want to speak for a minute to sort of the, funding and funding opportunities, what you guys provide for that? Can provide.
Yeah, it really is a braided funding model. I'm going to pop in a document. Sorry, I muted myself instead of putting that in the chat. We have a sources of funding, but the great thing in Tennessee, which we're finding is not true across the, as we talk with other states, is we have a lot of funding for those completing a bachelor's degree. So this document I'm putting in chat is all the sources of funding that aren't grants, so they don't have to be repaid. So that's important. This is just a list of funding in the undergrad space. So when they're applying to like Austin P or another 4-year, they still have to complete their FAFSA like any student would and get that financial aid package. And then there is a Grow Your Own scholarship that's a last dollar scholarship that can come in. This is all just to ensure that the apprentice has no out-of-pocket cost. We're able to allocate funding because we have a ongoing 5 million allocation in the governor's budget. And so that's how we're kind of moving into this more sustainable funding model.
That's awesome. Well, and how, Dana, how do you, I was thinking about the process of filling out FAFSAs and that maybe think about recruitment into the program and kind of supporting people as they're making their application to college and doing all those things. Can you, on your end, you tell us anything about that and what you all do as a school district to help?
Yeah, so we've got an educator pipeline coordinator and then 2 other folks who are in positions that their sole job is to support this program. And so
Oh, you went on mute, Dana. Someone somehow.
I put in the chat our website for the teacher residency program. So you can see if you look at that, like kind of some of the recruitment efforts. We do classified recruitment. So people who are in our school already, that are secretaries, that are cafeteria workers, that are people who are in the school system that we know want to be part of a school system, who maybe just haven't had the opportunity before to get a bachelor's degree. So we kind of do a lot of recruitment there. We have a teaching as a profession academy. And so we have students that are within that academy that are high school students that we actually start their coursework with Nashville State while they're still in high school. So they have a direct pipeline into this program. So once someone applies then and is accepted into the teacher residency program, then one of the 3 folks who are, part of that that staff here at Central Services South, they do all of the support in sometimes a night, sometimes sitting at somebody's house, sometimes they come to us and they sit at the computer together and they walk through doing the application, doing the FAFSA, doing all the things they need to do. We also are very lucky in that we have what we call the Greater Together Partnership. This is a partnership between ourselves, Nashville State Community College, Austin Peay State University, TCAT, the Tennessee College of Applied Technology, and SCORE helps us to oversee that. And so we meet on a monthly basis. And this was work we were already doing just to talk about summer melt and how we lose students in between years. And so we all, we're all doing things together on a monthly basis to have that conversation around how we best support students to get in and then stay in.
That is so powerful. Such a great model and such an exciting resource that we have here in Grow Your Own. One of the things I've shared both with Kate and Dana, we are obviously an early childhood organization and network focused on that birth to 3rd grade. And the opportunity that I still see ahead for us and for our educator prep programs, and I know these 2 are aligned with me, and Kate's going to really help infiltrate, but is to, and there's not right now in any of the 11 educator prep programs that are participating with Grow Your Own across our state. There's none right now that are doing a partnership that includes a pre-K to third grade licensure. Am I saying that right, Kate? So we want to have some conversations with some of our educator prep programs and school districts to encourage the offering of that, so that we really can, get that early childhood focus as much as we can. Obviously, we're only like 3 years into the program, and it was during the pandemic when it started. So a lot of incredible work has already happened and groundwork has been laid, but I just wanted to mention that as part of. Let me ask this, Kate, before we open it up for questions. What if one of our teams, what we have here on the call, as I had mentioned to you and Dana, we have action teams from 8 communities, and these action teams are part of our Bright Start Tennessee network, and they are all their action teams are focused on this workforce pipeline and kind of a variety of strategies. And some of them have just a mix of different people, advocates. Some of them have folks from their school district, some of them from community colleges or TCATs in their areas, just early childhood people from nonprofits and United Ways and others. How could you help a community or a cohort like that? How could the Grow Your Own Center help a group like that to build some partnerships, understand what's already happening in their communities, help build a Grow Your Own partnership if they so choose?
That's a great question. That's a big part of our work, is building those partnerships and those pathways, right? We want pathways for every learner across every part of the state. And so we have a lot of work going on with community colleges. We have someone over workforce in the community college. We have a TAP project. And so all of these can be expanded to build, pilots or whatever it might be in their early childhood space. So I'd really just encourage you to reach out to the center, because we have a lot of work and conversations going on, because I really feel like these are localized efforts, right? You have to have your community college on board. And typically when they hear from districts about the need, they're pretty willing to do what the district needs, because they need the district to have students come to them. So it's that type of relationship there, but we're able to facilitate those conversations and bring everybody to the table, really talk about the need, but what solutions to this challenge would be. Ensuring that the district where this is happening is already an approved Grow Your Own, provider would be really important, just because the assistants would have to be employed to participate. And then making sure that there's a 4-year, like you were saying, Blair, that they can transition to. And so these are all things we can help have conversations about and advocate for. So there are more pathways available.
That's fantastic. Dana, any last words from you? Thank you. One of the things I learned many things from you, and thank you for providing some of the resources in the chat for kind of people who want to dig in and learn a little bit more from the website. I learned from you about SCORE's work and supporting your efforts, and I have kind of top of my to-do list to reach out to our friends over at SCORE and inquire about what they're kind of putting into that, and whether or not there might be opportunities for them to support other districts and other communities. And how we might be a help to them. So I really appreciated learning about that. Anything, let's open it up real quick. Jonathan, I know we're running a little behind, but maybe we could open it up for a few questions.
Absolutely. Love to do that. I'm going to pull you guys out of a spotlight mode, but please come off mute and share your questions that you have, either for Dana or Kate.
Well, and one of the things too, I wouldn't be surprised if, the teams on our call maybe are not familiar with whether or not yet they even have Grow Your Own partnerships happening in your communities. And I'm betting that some of you are thinking about, gosh, that's something I'd like to find out about.
Kate just added the list to the chat.
Awesome.
So, yep. That's a great resource. As you head into your breakout sessions, I do encourage you to click that link in the chat first, so that'll maybe help you as you spur your discussions and you think about that as you kind of move into that. So,
and Jonathan, there's something in here from let's see, Rhonda Laird with TECTA started a RAP program. I knew that I reached out to Belva Weathersby and asked if it was ready to be discussed, and so I knew that there was something in the works on an apprenticeship program from TECTA. So we'll have to get you guys on next as soon as y'all are ready for us to learn more, or feel free to share anything. It looks like Rhonda has put her email in the chat if anybody wanted to learn a little bit more, but we also will be very pleased to bring you on to one of our future sessions too, Rhonda.
Absolutely. All right. Well, if there's not any questions now, I'm guessing there will be after we kind of go into breakout groups. So what we'll do now is same thing, same format. We're going to send you into breakout groups. Love for you to come on video, off mute, talk with each other about how you can apply some of the things that are happening here. Maybe click that link. You guys have your facilitation guides there. So I'm going to send you into breakout groups for
Jonathan, don't send me yet. Leave me, leave me on just a minute and then send me. Or is it too late?
I can't get once
Okay,
I hit the I can't
well, let me
control
just
it.
say thank you to Kate and Dana then, because they're amazing. And I know at least Dana has to head out. And so thanks to both of you so much. Kate, if you can stay kind of through the breakout and be available to the end, that would be great. Again, y'all are amazing. Thank you for your inspiration and your great work.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. So I'll send you breakout groups again. We'll kind of come back in afterwards and chat about this and see what you guys have learned and how you're processing this. There's a button at the bottom of the screen too. If you ever need help with anything, feel free to press that and I can magically appear and maybe answer any questions you might have. So I know we had several people had to sign off and check out, a little bit smaller on the groups this last round. Want to just check in with anybody, see what questions you guys have, and then love to hear a little bit of a share out for those that want to do so. We won't necessarily go to everybody, but we'll pop in and check in with some of the groups. Again, if you don't mind sharing your name, the organization you represent, and then the region that you represent as you kind of share. I will go just so that I can, well, you know what? Let's just pop it up and say who wants to share first. Any volunteers?
Full disclosure, Jonathan, we cheated a little bit because we had Rhonda in our group.
I love it.
So we were excited to learn and to hear that she had worked with Kate and Dana in the beginnings of these conversations, and the funding, came from the same place, but it's through DHS instead of DOE. So she gave us some really good information. So we didn't necessarily get to fully chat about Grow Your Own, but we're appreciative for the presentation. I'm excited to dig into the resources. But does anyone from my group have any questions or comments?
We had some conversation.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Briefly about Debbie Kaylaher and Dr. Staples, and I had some good conversation about just what's available now. We talked a little bit about we know there is a Grow Your Own program in Memphis between the Memphis Shelby County Schools and University of Memphis. We talked a little bit about are there some opportunities to bring in the associate's degree program with Southwest Tennessee Community College as a partner in that, and Debbie was asking. She mentioned a grant, the Growth, GROWWTH grant, and she was wondering if that was a part of the Grow Your Own. I don't know if that's, Kate, if you have any idea what that is or no. So there was something with that, and we talked a little bit too just about the connection to the high school career and technical education programs, and whether or not there could be some pathways from those programs directly into a Grow Your Own type of program. So we are just looking forward to some next steps as we go back with our action team here in Memphis to learn a little bit more about what's going on with the Grow Your Own piece here.
Good deal. Any insights from Chattanooga?
So one of the things that we discussed is, we are trying to kind of figure out some different ways to align we have a CT program of study at one of our local high schools that is a teaching as a profession program of study. We're actually adding the early childhood education program of study, within that, to build out over the next few years. But we have, a connection to Build Within as we're an apprenticeship innovation hub in Chattanooga, Hamilton County, and thinking about how to use, that, I think it's already being used somewhat with our adults, in a grow your own program, but also how to use that as, as a student platform and almost, pre-apprenticeship model, to kind of expedite some of the work around, how to fast track students into this career.
That's great.
What school district are you with?
Hamilton County Schools.
Hamilton. Okay, thanks.
It's great. Nashville folks.
Sure. So I'm Jennifer Gonsalves. I'm with Nashville State Community College. So we love the Grow Your Own program. But I appreciate actually y'all's presentation because I'm housed in Nashville. And so I'm not as familiar and I don't work quite as closely as some of my counterparts in the Clarksville area. So I appreciate that. One of the things that we did when we were in our conversation was went to the website to see which counties were participating and which were not. And one that was kind of shocking to us was Davidson is not participating. And so we were just kind of curious why that is, and just kind of talking through some maybe reasons why. One thing that we also discussed was the concern that while the Grow Your Own is fantastic, I know I have seen from some of our students who are working in the very early childhood space leave the early childhood space to pursue elementary ed. And so that is just a concern that we have is we don't want to fight against each other. We don't want to be pulling people out of the early childhood space because they're going to make more money and feel like there's a more successful career route pursuing the teacher licensure elementary ed. So we'd like to see more conversations about how do we elevate that early childhood space through pay, through, what have you, so that we're not just pulling people that are already employed in early childhood to go work at, a second grade or third grade level.
That's great. And that's part of the reason I think that we think about this in more of that birth through age 8 space, right? This is not something that's, if we start looking at it in silos, we're missing sometimes the bigger trends of movement within this larger sector, from sector to sector. So what about Rosa? You guys, your team, Upper Cumberland folks?
We actually agree with what Jennifer was saying. We were talking about how great this program is, growing your own pre-K through third, but we definitely want to see more of birth to school age, bringing in that early education and the interest of through our CTE programs and offering it through them as well and growing it that way. So we're going to try to work to make that happen in our areas.
Right. I've been connecting with folks. I think that's all the groups that we're wanting to share at this point. If there's anybody else that has any questions or thoughts, let us know. Otherwise, we'd love to thank Kate. And then before you guys go, before everybody just starts disappearing, you're still early. You still got a little bit more time. I want to put a link in the chat on a survey we always try to get survey data from you guys to say, how do we make this better? What topics do you want to talk about? So as you've been thinking about things that you want to learn more about, would love to hear back from you all as well. So, but any other questions from you before I'm going to wrap up and show a little bit about what, preview of what we're going to talk about next time. But would love to see if there's any other questions for Kate or anyone else before we go.
And Jonathan, of course, we'll get a recap of this out to everybody, and it's been recorded, and we'll provide the materials and the links and everything that have been discussed. And of course, information that Kate has provided and that Dana provided. So you'll have all that in one place. Kate, I know has offered to play a role in helping support any of you all, if you as your community teams or want to pull together community teams to think more about this and learn more about how and get support for putting together, programs in your area for Grow Your Own. And so just thank you to Kate for that and for all the good stuff that's that they have underway, the Grow Your Own Center.
Fantastic. So we still have several sessions left. We've got future topics that we know we're going to try to cover: early educator compensation strategies, cohort-based models, Effective Employer School Partnerships. Interesting grant that just came out from DHS about that one. It's kind of connected to that. But we know the next time we gather is April, that first Friday in April. And the idea is that we'll be covering compensation strategies. This is one of the hot topics that I know everybody's interested in and wants to hear more about. So we'll be talking about compensation strategies when we gather in April. We know that a lot of you all have kind of a every other month cadence. So when we match, so to kind of match the cycle that we have, we do this community of practice with all of our Bright Start communities, and then a lot of you meet in the off months. So look forward to hearing kind of what you all discuss and how you move the conversation forward around the larger picture and topic around early educator workforce development. So again, the survey for this session is in the chat. Let us know if there's other topics that you want to talk about. The survey is a 60-second survey. If it takes longer than that, maybe you're doing something wrong or you've clicked the wrong link. But it should be pretty quick and simple. Would love to hear your feedback on that. You can always reach me as well through my email, the one that kind of sent the blast out email as well. I'd love to hear from you as to kind of what you think we need to cover and how we need to continue to have this conversation moving forward. So thank you all. I'm going to give you about 7 minutes back on your day. Appreciate everything that you've done and are doing in your communities, and look forward to chatting with you in April.